From the national newsroom of the Canadian Press, I'm Karen Rebo. Thousands of Republicans have arrived in Milwaukee for the start of this week's Republican National Convention, days after an assassination attempt on former U.S. President Donald Trump.
Donald Trump arrived at the city Sunday ahead of the four-day event that's expected to invigorate Republicans as they formally elect him as the 2024 presidential nominee. Many people arriving at the Milwaukee airport wore bright red hats and shirts with bold text of well-known Trump slogans. But much of the conversation was about the bloodshed at the rally in Pennsylvania Saturday. The shooting pierced the former president's ear and left a supporter dead. The U.S. Secret Service attempted to quell fears, saying they were confident with their safety plan for the major Republican event. Kelly Malone, the Canadian Press, Milwaukee.
4 sitting American presidents have been killed, but the weekend shooting attack on Donald Trump was the most serious attempt to kill a president or presidential candidate in 43 years. Former U.S. Secret Service agent Tim McCarthy was shot and wounded during the Ronald Reagan assassination attempt in 1981. He says the Secret Service simply did not do its job at Saturday's Trump rally in Pennsylvania.
That was not a victory. That was a failure, because if a protectee of the Secret Service is injured, it's not a victory. It's a failure.
Authorities are looking for answers about what may have driven the 20-year-old Pennsylvania shooter to try to assassinate Trump before he himself was killed. Thomas Matthew Crook's former classmate, Jason Kohler, says Crooks was picked on in school.
He was always bullied every day. He was just an outcast. He was just made fun of, I guess, for the way he dressed or his appearance.
How did he dress?
Like they were just saying jeans. He'd wear hunting outfits sometimes.
King Charles III has written to Donald Trump after the assassination attempt. Buckingham Palace didn't disclose the contents of the monarch's private message delivered yesterday through the British Embassy in Washington. It follows a call to Trump yesterday by British Prime Minister Keir Starmer and Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, both of them condemning the violence, expressing condolences for the victims and their families, and wishing a quick recovery for the former president and those injured. Downtown Halifax will host Canada's 13 premiers beginning today for 3 days of meetings. Nova Scotia's Tim Houston is the current chair of the Council of the Federation, and this premier will host the conference in the Nova Scotia capital. He said last week the premiers will be focused on discussing key issues like affordability, housing, and infrastructure. Canada's Crown Indigenous Relations Minister, Gary Anandasanjuri, is scheduled to deliver an apology today to 9 First Nations in Manitoba and Saskatchewan following decades of Canada labeling the Dakota and Lakota as refugees, so not including them in treaty negotiations. The second of 4 installments of this year's national carbon price rebate will be deposited or mailed out to millions of households today. This is the Canadian Press. In sports, an injured Lionel Messi left the match early and in tears, but he was all smiles when teammate Lautaro Martinez scored in the 112th minute to give Argentina a 1-0 victory over Colombia in the Copa America Championship match Sunday night in Miami. Canada finished 4th in that tournament on penalties to Uruguay Saturday. Spain won a record 4th European Championship title Sunday. An 86th minute goal clinched a 2-1 victory over England. Lewis Ward kicked a 38-yard field goal on the final play to lift the visiting Ottawa Red Blacks to a 37-34 CFL victory over the Edmonton Elks. The Red Blacks move into a second-place tie in the East with Toronto. The winless Elks slipped to 0-5. They and the Hamilton Tiger Cats remain the only teams without a win. Former NFL receiver Jacoby Jones has died at the age of 40. His family said he died at home in New Orleans, but a cause of death was not given. From the Canadian Press, I'm Karen Rebo.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to follow and subscribe. For more of today's top stories, visit thecanadianpressnews.ca.